What if the story of Jesus' life that you've always known is missing a crucial chapter? The Gospels show us Jesus at 12, a brilliant kid in the temple, debating with learned elders. And then, silence. 18 years of nothing. He just reappears at age 32, start his world-changing ministry at the Jordan River. Where did he go? What did he do? Who did he become during those years that shaped the man who would alter human history? While the Western Bible is silent, an ancient African Christian tradition, one that grew on its own for over 1,000 years, saved stories that fill this very gap. For centuries, these accounts have been treasured in Ethiopia, a nation with a unique and profound place in Christian history. And what these traditions reveal about the miracles of a young Jesus will challenge everything you thought you knew. Join us as we investigate the legends and lore of Ethiopia's ancient faith to uncover the shocking stories about Jesus' hidden years. For billions of Christians, the life of Jesus is the bedrock of their faith. His teachings are studied, his parables memorized. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are our primary sources. They give us a detailed picture of his birth, the flight to Egypt, and that one tantalizing glimpse of him at age 12 in the Jerusalem temple. Luke's Gospel says he amazed the teachers, and afterward went back to Nazareth and was obedient, growing in wisdom and stature. And then, the story just cuts to black. For 18 years, the official record is a void. This period is often called the silent years or the lost years of Jesus. It's a massive gap in the biography of one of history's most influential people. Imagine reading a biography of a president that detailed his birth, told one story from when he was 12, and then jumped straight to his first inauguration. You'd have to ask, what happened in between? How did the boy become the man? Mainstream scholarship has a simple, if unsatisfying, answer. Jesus probably lived a normal life in Nazareth. He would have learned carpentry or stone masonry from his father, Joseph. He'd have studied the Torah, attended synagogue, and lived the quiet life of a Jewish man under Roman rule. From this point of view, the silence exists because there was nothing special to report. It was a time of private growth, without the public miracles that would later define him. But that explanation has never been enough for many. The silence became a canvas for countless theories. Some suggested Jesus traveled the Silk Road to India to study with gurus and monks. Others claimed he went to Britain with his great-uncle, Joseph of Arimathea, to learn from Druids. These theories are fascinating, but they have zero historical proof and are rejected by nearly all credible historians. They're modern guesses trying to fill an ancient vacuum. But what if the answers aren't in India or Britain? What if a key to this mystery lies south of the Holy Land, in the highlands of Africa, within one of the oldest Christian nations on earth? What if the stories weren't lost at all, but were just being kept somewhere else? For that, our journey takes us to the ancient Christian tradition of Ethiopia. To understand the stories, you first have to understand the storyteller. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church isn't just another denomination. Its roots stretch back to the dawn of Christianity. The story starts in the book of Acts, when the Apostle Philip meets a high-ranking Ethiopian official serving his queen. After Philip explained a prophecy from Isaiah to him, The man was baptized and brought the message of Christ back home to the royal court. By the 4th century, Christianity was the state religion of the powerful kingdom of Aksum, making Ethiopia one of the first Christian nations in the world, centuries before most of Europe. What makes Ethiopian Christianity so unique is its journey. Geographically isolated and politically independent, it developed its own distinct theology, art, and most importantly for us, its own biblical canon, largely untouched by the arguments and councils of the Roman and Byzantine churches. For a long time, the West assumed Ethiopian religious texts were written much later, but that idea was shattered by the study of the Garima Gospels. Tucked away in a remote monastery, these 2 illustrated volumes were thought to be from the 11th century. But modern radiocarbon dating places them between 390 and 660 AD. This makes the Garima Gospels among the oldest surviving illuminated Christian manuscripts in the world, proof of the incredible age and skill of the Ethiopian church. This wasn't a church that got its faith second-hand. It was a direct participant in early Christianity, a guardian of ancient texts. And while Europe was struggling through the fall of the Roman Empire, Ethiopian scribes were diligently copying scriptures in Ge'ez, an ancient Semitic language. On top of all that, Ethiopia has a history of fierce independence. Besides a brief 5-year occupation by Italy in the 20th century, Ethiopia was never colonized. This is a huge deal. It means that while missionaries and colonial powers were spreading their own edited and translated versions of the Bible across the world, Ethiopia's sacred library stayed intact, guarded, and preserved. It's a branch of the Christian tree that grew straight from the roots, never pruned by foreign hands. And in that library, we find books and stories the rest of the world has long forgotten. One of the first things that jumps out is the Bible itself. A standard Protestant Bible has 66 books. A Catholic Bible has 73. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, however, has 81 books. It's the largest biblical canon in all of Christianity. And this isn't just a few extra chapters. The Ethiopian canon includes entire books that were rejected or lost by Western churches, like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees. These were ancient Jewish texts written before Christ and were clearly influential for early Christians. In fact, the New Testament's Book of Jude directly quotes a prophecy from the Book of Enoch. So why were these books, once so important, left out of the Western Bible? The history of the biblical canon is complicated. Councils of church leaders, like the one at Laodicea in the 4th century, debated which texts were divinely inspired. Books like Enoch, with its wild stories of fallen angels and giants, were eventually seen as too fantastical by the Roman Church. They wanted a canon that was more focused and, in their view, theologically consistent. The Ethiopian Church, growing independently, simply never got the memo to remove them. They saw no reason to discard texts that had been part of their heritage for centuries, so they kept them. Their 81-book canon isn't an expansion of the Western Bible. It's a snapshot of what an ancient Christian library looked like before the final edits were made in the West. Now, this bigger canon already challenges the idea of the silent years. If the Western Church set aside books for being too strange, What other stories might have been considered unacceptable? But here's where we have to make a crucial distinction. The most shocking stories about Jesus' youth aren't found in Ethiopia's 81-book Bible. They're found in the other ancient texts, the church preserved alongside it. This brings us to the heart of the mystery, and we need to be crystal clear here. The stories we're about to explore are considered apocryphal, meaning they are not part of the canonical 81-book Ethiopian Bible. They come from other ancient writings. Most famously, a text known as the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. Early on, Western church fathers rejected this text as fiction, but in Ethiopia, it wasn't thrown away. Instead, its stories were preserved and woven into a larger, non-canonical collection of tales called the Tomra Eosis *, which means the miracles of Jesus. While it's not scripture, its collection is a beloved part of Ethiopia's spiritual literature, and it gives us a vision of a young Jesus brimming with untamed divine power. And the stories it tells are genuinely shocking. They show a child who hasn't yet learned to balance his divine power with human compassion. In one famous story, a 5-year-old Jesus is playing by a stream and fashions 12 small sparrows out of soft clay. A neighbor sees this and is scandalized because it was the Sabbath when such work was forbidden. He runs to tell Joseph. As the man walks away, Jesus claps his hands and shouts to his clay figures, "Go, fly away." Instantly, the clay birds come to life, chirping and flying off into the sky. It's a beautiful image, but it's followed by stories that are far more disturbing. In another tale, a boy, the son of a scribe, carelessly runs by and scatters the pools of water Jesus had made. Angry, the young Jesus says to him, "You insolent, godless, ignorant one. Behold, now you shall also wither like a tree." And immediately, the boy withers up and dies. The townspeople are horrified. The boy's parents rush to Joseph, crying, "What is this son you have who does such things?" In another story, a child accidentally bumps into Jesus' shoulder. Enraged, Jesus declares, "You shall not finish your journey," and the child drops dead. The villagers tell Joseph he can't live among them unless he teaches his son to bless, not curse. According to these tales, Joseph tries to discipline him, but Jesus' power is matched by his otherworldly wisdom. When a teacher named Zacchaeus tries to instruct the boy, Jesus baffles him with questions he can't possibly answer. Humbled, the teacher tells Joseph, "This boy is not of this world." Appeased, Jesus is then said to have healed everyone he had cursed, bringing the dead children back to life. These aren't the gentle stories we know from the Gospels. This is a portrait of a divine child, a powerful and sometimes dangerous being, who is slowly learning how to use his cosmic power inside a human body. For the communities that saved these tales, they weren't heresy. They were an attempt to answer a logical question. What would a child who was also God actually be like? They filled the silent years not with silence, but with raw, powerful, and unsettling displays of divinity. So, here's a natural question. Did Jesus himself ever travel to Ethiopia? Is that the big secret? This is a popular theory online, but we need to be careful with the evidence. The Gospels in all Bibles, including Ethiopia, state that the Holy Family fled to Egypt to escape King Herod when Jesus was an infant. Egypt is, of course, in Africa. But the Bible doesn't say how long they stayed or how far they went. Within Ethiopian tradition, there is a strong and cherished belief that during this time, Mary, Joseph, and the infant Jesus traveled further south, crossing from Egypt and spending time in Ethiopia itself. Certain places, especially around ancient monasteries on Lake Tana, are honored as spots where the Holy Family rested. This story is found in devotional texts like the Tomra, Mariam *, or Miracles of Mary. But here's the crucial distinction. This tradition is about Jesus as a baby during the flight to Egypt. It has nothing to do with the hidden years between ages 12 and 30.
Okay.
There are no ancient Ethiopian texts that claim a teenage or young adult Jesus traveled to Ethiopia to study. The idea that the lost years were spent in Ethiopia is a modern mix-up of this older tradition about his infancy. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church itself does not officially teach that Jesus spent his hidden years there. So, the real hidden truth isn't about where Jesus traveled. It's about the kind of stories. About his youth that were preserved in Ethiopian tradition stories the Western world chose to set aside and forget. The question is, why? The exclusion of these stories from the Western canon wasn't some conspiracy. It was a decision rooted in theology. In the first few centuries of Christianity, there were dozens of Gospels circulating, each with a different perspective. There was a Gospel of Peter, a Gospel of Mary, and the infancy Gospel of Thomas. As the Church tried to define its core beliefs, it had to create a official set of scriptures. To do this, they asked a few key questions. Was the text written by an apostle or someone close to them? And most importantly, did its theological message fit with the central understanding of who Jesus was? The infancy gospel, for all its drama, presented a problem. The Jesus of the canonical Gospels performs miracles out of compassion to heal, feed, and teach. His power is always benevolent. The Jesus of the infancy Gospel, however, often uses his power out of anger, sometimes even cruelly. This image of a volatile, dangerous child God just didn't line up with the loving, self-sacrificial Savior who became the cornerstone of Christian theology. So, when it was time to finalize the canon, texts like these were labeled apocryphal, interesting, maybe, but not inspired scripture. In the West, they were gradually sidelined and mostly forgotten. But in Ethiopia, that never happened with the same finality. Because the Church developed on its own, it kept a different relationship with its texts. The infancy gospel wasn't elevated to the level of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but its stories weren't censored. They were preserved in separate collections like the Tomra and became part of the nation's sacred storytelling. The Ethiopian tradition didn't just choose one or the other. In a way, it preserved the official portrait and the controversial sketches from the artist's studio. So, what do we make of all this? What's the ultimate truth uncovered by Ethiopia's tradition? The shocking truth is not that we found a lost gospel that rewrites the Bible. The truth is that the story of Christianity is far richer and more diverse than many of us were led to believe. The Ethiopian tradition is like a time capsule, preserving a vision of Jesus from a time before the lines of orthodoxy were so rigidly drawn. Whether or not a 5-year-old Jesus actually made clay birds fly is, in many ways, beside the point. The asterisk existence of that story is what matters. It tells us that the earliest Christians were wrestling with the profound mystery of a God who became human. They were asking the hard questions. What does it mean for an infinite God to be a small child? How would that power even work? These stories are theological explorations, human attempts to fill in the gaps and connect with the full humanity and divinity of Jesus. And this brings us to a deeper truth. We all have hidden years. We all have those undocumented periods of quiet growth, private struggles, and personal formation. They're the years where we learn, make mistakes, and slowly become who we're meant to be. Those years are silent to the outside world, but they are everything to our own story. The legends of Jesus' youth saved in Ethiopia are a powerful metaphor for this. They suggest that the period of silence wasn't empty, but was filled with the immense challenge of integrating a divine nature with a human one. They remind us that our own hidden years are not a waste. They are our training ground. They are where we, too, learn to master our gifts and grow in wisdom, preparing for whatever life will eventually call us to do. In the end, the Ethiopian tradition doesn't give us a new chapter inch the Bible. It does something more important. It gives us a new lens asterisk through which to see asterisk the whole story. It shatters the illusion that our familiar version of Christianity is the only one that ever existed. It reveals a branch of the faith that is ancient, African, and unapologetically unique. We started with a mystery, the 18-year silence. We found that while the official silence remains, the void is filled with a vibrant chorus of legends and traditions that have been faithfully preserved for over 1,500 years. These stories of a powerful and sometimes startling young Jesus challenge us to think more deeply about the nature of God and the journey of becoming human. The truths from Ethiopia aren't about changing the Gospels, but about broadening our understanding of the faith they inspired. It's a reminder that some of history's greatest secrets aren't buried in the sand, they're hiding in plain sight, preserved in the hearts and libraries of those the rest of the world simply forgot to ask. The story of the Ethiopian tradition is a powerful testament to the diversity of faith. If this journey into the hidden years of Jesus opened your eyes, let us know in the comments below. What was the most shocking part of this story for you? And if you believe history like this deserves to be told, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into the forgotten chapters of our world. Sharing this video is the best way to help us bring these stories out of the shadows and into the light. Thanks for joining us.